Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. So biting our nails, chewing with our mouths open, supporting Arsenal, we all have habits that we could really do with breaking at some point. The same can be said, of course, in Overwatch. From Bronze to GM, players across the community have some pretty bizarre or obvious habits that are hampering them from becoming better players. This video is just for a little fun, but we wanted to discuss our top 5 difficult habits within Overwatch that you really could do with breaking for PC and console. Before we get started in this video, do try and guess what habits that we might highlight in this video in the comments below as well, and just to see if you're right. And also, of course, if you have any habits that you want to address on your own, you're more than welcome to post them below too.
In a lot of team fights within Overwatch, it's about killing the enemy quicker than they kill you. Obviously, it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty self-explanatory. Both teams are eager to grab first blood, but our first habit is being a bit too eager and preemptively using abilities. Using your Helix rocket as a way of engaging, panic using Ana's biotic grenade, and the much more obvious, preemptively using your Sarius shield as you're emerging from cover, and that sort of stuff. When it comes to aggressive and defensive play, abilities tend to be very easy to telegraph and work out when they're gonna be used. If you see the enemy Zarya use her shield in front of you, you will stop shooting. If you see the enemy Ana use her grenade just to heal herself, then now's a good opportunity to dive onto her, as she's used the only sustain she's got for herself. It's a bad habit to have for those 3 reasons. That using the ability early means that it's not available for clutch moments in a fight, it doesn't quite work to its full effectiveness, and the enemy can capitalize off of your prematurity if they spot it. Much like a lot of habits in this list, it's all about being aware of when you want to use your ability but fighting the urge. Then muscle memory will kick in and stop you from using abilities in knee-jerk situations, but it's all about willpower, practice, and knowing when you made those mistakes.
Now, of course, we do speak about mechanics quite a bit in this list, but this next tip is one that I think lower tiers tend to do a little bit more than higher tiers, which sounds weird because it's doing what the pros do, or will trying to do what the pros do. These mistakes can be put into 2 categories, so let's hit them separately. The first is when it comes to team comps. I do see and hear a lot from lower tiers when they try and set up their teams, as they try to do it to something incredibly meta. Having a Lucio over any other support options, as that's what the pros do, making sure that you have a Reinhardt because that's what the pros do, having a much more traditional 2-2-2 lineup because, well, you get the idea. As a main tank player myself, I'm an advocate for having a Reinhardt or a Winston on my team, but I do know that not having them isn't the worst thing in the world, especially if people on your team aren't comfortable on these specific heroes. You may have a very good Ana on your team and a very good Zen as well, but is it really worth taking one of them off their preferred hero and putting them onto a Lucio? Well, the speed boost is incredibly important in pro play, but can you do it without it in your platinum games? I would say so. It also goes into another thing that the pros do, and that's strategies and positioning. I see this a lot with teams taking the high ground. Players know that they should take the high ground, as it's a solid bit of advice, but in some situations they don't know why. Once they're up there, they don't know how to engage or react to situations as they're presented, and this can catch a lot of people out. It's quite common to see people do things because the pros do them, but if you don't know why the pros do it in the first place, then you're at a complete loss, and you may need to do some reading up on why.
This next habit is one I think we all suffer from, at least a little bit, and it is tilting. I think players can roll their eyes when it comes to talking about tilting, but it's more than just getting angry and flaming at your team. That isn't just tilting, that's taking it to the next level. Whilst that may be a result of tilting, it's more important to look at how that affects the gameplay aspect of the game. In our scenario, we define it more as forcing plays due to aggravation or fatigue. I feel that tilting comes under impatience rather than just anger, and you don't need to be seething with anger to tilt in a game. You just need to be frustrated at how the situation is going, and all of a sudden your mood is affecting your gameplay. A lot of streamers, and us included when we stream Overwatch, sometimes have people pointing out that it looks like we're tilting, or that we're starting to get a little bit upset, and a response like "I'm not tilting" will really just be counterproductive in this scenario. That's not a good way of acknowledging it, really. The first step is acknowledging it though, and just going, yeah, okay, I am a bit frustrated, so I'm gonna go get a drink. It's a great way of just acknowledging this to your friends, and that you are frustrated and you need a bit of a 5 or 10 minute break. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It can be quite healthy for you as well, just from a sitting down and playing games for a long amount of time type of perspective. Tilting doesn't make you a bad person, but sweeping your frustration under the rug and constantly letting it boil over will make you a negative or even toxic player in some cases, and that's a habit we really hope you can avoid.
Back to less philosophical habits, and we have another mechanic that even I suffer from. Movement is such a key part of Overwatch, and I don't really mean positioning here. The habit is incredibly predictable movement across a multitude of heroes, but for examples we'll use Soldier. Most players when they first pick up Overwatch will try their best to just stand still and aim as they're getting used to it, but nowadays it's been a year, players have got better overall, but we still see players being able to AD strafe and still hit their targets. But the issue there is when you're too busy concentrating on your aim, your movement can become incredibly predictable as you're doing it. Humans overall are creatures of pattern, and subconsciously you will fall into the pattern of predictable strafing, making you easier pickings for better players. Much like when I bite my lip when I'm trying to aim with some heroes, you need to be aware that it's something that you're doing, to mentally note when you're doing it, and then to use all the willpower that you have to break this habit. And it's one of the hardest habits in this list to break, but it is one of the most important ones down the line. This definitely applies to the offensive heroes and supports, more so than anything else, but I would recommend watching your kill cams when you die, and just see how easy you were to be hit by the enemy, and then try and go to these situations with different movements and strategies. Keep experimenting, force out that willpower to move predictably, then muscle memory should do the rest. But it apparently takes about 3 weeks to develop a good habit, so don't be disheartened if it doesn't work overnight.
And finally, we go over a fairly easy habit to break, to be honest, but one of the most important ones to focus on, and that is just over-reloading. I've been very prone to this, so I'm eager to talk about this. All you Reinhardts, Hanzo and D.Va players don't need to worry about this at all really, but it's a habit that I think the tanks suffer from the most. Heroes such as Orisa, Zarya, Winston have big ammo magazines, so there isn't much need to reload as often as Tracer or Soldier. In fact, in peak situations, reloading can be the difference between killing your enemy and letting them get away just because you weren't doing the damage for a few seconds. When firing weapons that have bigger magazines, you after a while get a bit of a feel for when you're about to run out, but just getting into the habit of looking at your ammo clip in the bottom right instead of naturally pressing the reload button all the time is an easy way of breaking this. This is a more simple one to acknowledge and spot, but definitely one we think you should get to work on first.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know if you have any habits of your own that you want people to learn not to do. I can imagine it's not picking Hanzo, for example. But do let us know if you agree or disagree with any of these in our list as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.